Hello, Professor. So this is my video for milestone 1. I'm going to be recording how my converter works and explain how my engine takes the objects from it. So here we go. So basically, I have a folder called test and a folder called game engine. Game engine is where my game engine runs, and test is where I was testing all the converter stuff, just like we did in class. Inside the test folder, you have 3 different bat files. You have clean me, which will do it's like eliminate everything, and then you will have to actually recompile the converter. In this case, I already have cleaned it and compiled the converter, so I would like to save some time from the video, since I don't think that's essential. Convert, which will run the operations, and I'm gonna open it so we can talk about it a little bit. It's gonna run all the operations for the converter to convert the files. And then copy.bat, which will move all the files using a relational path to my game engine folder, so I can just do a click and play kind of thing and just compile and start running things. Okay, so in this file convert.bat, there's 4 commands, and I'm going to explain what they are. So basically, the 2 prerequisites to use the converter is to pass an FBX and then a location for a CDM file. The CDM file extension is not enforced, but is what I've been using for all the files because it's what we used in the last milestone. So if you pass in dash include texture, what this is telling him is to actually go and look into that FBX file, find what textures it says that it has relational paths to, and include those inside the CDM file. The last part is just telling the output to redirect to pipe to spacefigure.txt, since we're just running it as a process and we don't actually want to be looking at the output right now. Okay. Basically, what the converter is doing, it's taking all the FBX vertex and trilist and turning it into, or CDM trilist, in my case, it's called my vertex tride and my trilist, which were the ones that we declare inside the CDM object, which is what our game engine uses. Okay. So on the second one, we have the converter. It's the one for Astro Boy. Uses triangulate, and what this does is at the scene level, it will triangulate all the meshes. It's being done at the scene level, not at the mesh level. I started trying the other approach, but it really didn't work out. Just couldn't get to use the converter very well. The second parameter is force texture. Some of these FBX don't really have a good relative positioning to TGA, so I decided to put into the converter a way to force textures that we want to use so we can embed them inside. So now we go to the buggy, and the buggy is pretty much the same as the one on top, except that it has more textures embedded. I'm actually just gonna run it with one texture because I want one specific one to run, and right now my game engine pretty much just runs the last one, just takes the last texture in. So last one is the warbear. So the warbear, you'll notice something different. So we're putting 2 textures, but we're telling export texture. What export textures does is that it signals in our file system that the textures are going to come from the outside. They're going to be exported textures. So it's not gonna take them from the embedded in the file, but it's going to actually read the TGA files the way we used to do it with the old CDM files. Okay, so I'm going to close this up and go back here. As you can see, in game engine, there's no CDM files for the frigate or any of those. I'm actually going to go and execute them now. So we execute convert, and he'll start going through it. Okay, so now we have here all the CDM files: Astro Boy, Buggy, Space Frigate, and Warbear. So now we're going to run copy, which is going to copy it over, and I'm just going to show what we're copying over so we know. So we're copying all the CDM files in this folder, which we just created, and then we're copying the TGA and the Polar Bear TGA because those are the ones that we said that were external. So we're going to use them on the other side and load them externally. So let me run it 1 second. So I just ran copy, and as you can see, they're over here in the game engine. They're all there. Okay. So now, after doing that, if I click play and actually run my game engine, we can see that the objects are in there. We can see the car moving, this one scaling, and asteroid rotating. I will go back into that, but first I want to show how we're loading the stuff inside the files. So if we go, again I'm using a scene, just like I did in the class before. This time it's called file-based object instance scene. And in here it's where it controls everything that happens. So the way it runs is that I have this model-based object, that it's a new object that I created. It's the same object I actually created. I just created a new constructor to actually be able to take files. Basically, he'll take care to load stuff. He knows the model. There's a file-based model class that's over here, and this class knows if it's an embedded or a non-embedded file because it's on the header, and based on that, he'll load the textures into our texture manager, and we're just going to control textures by using the name of the textures that we send in when we use the converter. And you don't have to worry if it's internal or external. He'll work out. Like if we see here, for the wire bear, if we see here for the wire bear, the textures were copied. We can see the warbear.tga. But for everyone else, like the frigate and whatever, we don't have textures there. They're embedded in the CDM file. If you look at the file size, it's pretty much 20 kilobytes plus whatever the size of the original TGA was. So here we create a sphere that we pass to be able to show our bounding object, and then we pretty much do the positioning. So right now, the way I tell it to use the embedded ones is I said that the texture name is file specific. That way I can keep support and still use the objects that we created in the previous class without having to convert them. I kind of wanted to keep the compatibility to have options of how we load objects. So right now we have 3. We have what I call known models, which is pretty much anything on the enum. We have things that are loaded from the file internally and things that are loaded externally from because they were exported externally. I think the exporting externally is a really cool option because it lets you, if you're like, let's say you're an artist and you're using the game engine and you want to like test your different graphics as you go making them, it would let you do that really easily without having to go into a converter. So basically it's the same as before in that part. We just put them into the graphics object man, and once we're there, we have the update method which takes care of the actions, and I left the actions to be the same ones as before. Added new was on F5 and F6. You can draw the F5 will make the bounding sphere show, and F6 will actually hot swap the textures for the bear. For some reason, for anything except for the frigate, the bounding sphere is not showing right now. It was working till like 2 days ago, and I broke it yesterday, and I just found out when I was pretty much planning to make the video. So that's just there. It's a limitation that right now has. Okay, so I'm just gonna go walk in and show the models and stuff. So I have 2 cameras like before, and you use space to switch. Basically with F1 and F2 you can toggle and go around objects. We can see here the buggy, and we can see here one bear that has no texture. I'm gonna go to the other one, and one bear that is actually the war bear texture. Gonna go around this bear so we can see it completely. I'm gonna try to do this a little bit fast because I know I'm running out of time on the video. But we can see that the texture loaded, and there's no major gaps. Here we have the polar bear that's using a different shader with the lights. And we have Astro Void with no light shader. And the frigate, it's down here using also the texture with the lights on blue, just 1 point line. And then here is no texture. So I'm gonna move back. I'm gonna switch camera 1 second. I move back so we can see all 3 bears. So this camera has a smaller frustum, so it takes objects out of the perspective. Let me go up 1 second. And then I pitch this. So we can see all 3 bears right now. So if I press F6, what will happen is that the bears will hot swap their textures. And they just rotate. Right now I'm just having them rotate. I'm putting a failed texture onto that one just so we can see the pink checker thing. If I hit F5, the grids come out for the objects. We can see that it scales with the sphere that's growing with the frigate. Again, there's this one bug that I just had today and I just encountered it, so I haven't fixed it yet. But the bounding spheres are not representing for the other objects. I guess they are being miscalculated, so they're being misplaced, and that's why we can't see them. Okay, so this is pretty much my converter, and this is my milestone 1. Thank you very much for watching.